Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode. I'm your host, Arshel, and before we take a deep dive into what we're going to be talking about today, just take a listen. No beeping. Told you I was going to take care of it. It has been taken care of. So today, you guys, we're going to be talking about the Kamala Harris rally in North Carolina. Now, both Kamala and Trump are both in North Carolina, but today we're just going to focus on the Kamala Harris thing. Y'all know what I think about President Trump. We are going to talk about that later down in this episodes later down the line. We're going to be talking about that, but today we're going to be speaking about Kamala Harris rally. Now, one of the things that I noticed that was the biggest portion of her rally was she was going to be unveiling her economic plan for the United States. You know, one of the biggest criticisms that we've been seeing about really, I think, with both campaigns is that neither one of them are really talking about policies. For weeks, you were saying, you know, if you're on the Republican side or conservative, I should say, like Trump, we've been questioning whether or not Kamala Harris is a Black person. We've been looking at her background, how she got herself all the way up to being the vice president, or at least how she became a congressperson, how she became the attorney general. Pretty much she slept her way to the top. Like, this is one of the things that we've been discussing. And it's a very big deal. Obviously, we all saw the clip with Judge Joe Brown. This is something that we actually have to consider. Now, we've been so focused on the background of Kamala Harris that we don't really focus on some of the key things that make her problematic. Now, we want to focus on what she's going to do. If you're someone who says that you're going to vote for Kamala Harris because she's Black, because she's a woman, all of these things, you know, well, her being a woman is truth, but her being Black, that's up for debate. Her being even the nominee, right? Trump has made the accusation that how she became the nominee is unconstitutional, and they don't want to talk about that. But we're just going to focus on what she's been saying at this rally as we're talking about the economy. And I've been arguing this woman is a socialist. She's always been a socialist. But every single time this woman speaks, if she is talking about the economy, she says what she's going to do, as if she's not the vice president. She is mimicking everything that Joe Biden said for the 2020 election when he did come out of the basement. And it all sounds the same thing. Why do we think we're going to get anything different with her than what you got with Joe Biden? So before I go on a tangent, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run some clips from this economic plan of hers that she unveiled at the North Carolina rally. So let's go ahead and let's run this clip for you guys. Now, before I push play, I just want to recognize this is a tiny room. You know how they would try to make it seem like her rallies are big. They'd have to pay people to get in there. People would come for Megan Thee Stallion. Obviously, she took the advice, don't ever invite trash to promote your policies ever again. I think she took that advice very seriously because there was no Megan Thee Stallion, no Cardi B's, none of that trash was actually there. But this is a very compared to what we've seen in other rallies of hers, like the Pennsylvania rally, for example. This is a lot smaller compared to the North Carolina one. And it's quite possible because, well, she doesn't have the support in that state. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to run this clip for you guys. Let's go ahead and let's do that.
We were facing one of the worst economic crises in modern history. And today, by virtually every measure, our economy is the strongest in the world.
Let's break down that statement, that our economy is the strongest in the world. Let's be clear, okay? If you're an American citizen who's making $30,000, you're in the top 1% in the world, okay? The top 1%. Do you honestly think someone making $30,000 in America cares that they are the top 1% in the world when they can't afford to get the rent that they're looking for, and they can't afford to buy a house? They can't afford to build business with that. They can't get business loans, that their credit is going through the roof because they're using credit cards to pay for groceries. Don't tell me that we're the strongest economy in the world. I don't care about what's going on with the rest of the world. I don't care. What's happening here? So that line may work for the people in that room. It may work for people who want to vote for her, but no, that's nonsense. I don't care about being the top 1% in the world. Can I afford to live a life in the country in which I was born in? Can we do that? And if we can't do that, then what the hell are we voting for you for? Well, like, why are we voting for you? Okay, let's keep this going.
We have created 16 million new jobs. We've made historic investments in infrastructure, in chips manufacturing, in clean energy. And new numbers this week alone show that inflation is down under 3%. And as President of the United States, it will be my intention to build on the foundation of this progress. Still, we know that many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives.
Because there's no
Costs
progress.
are still too high.
Hello.
And on a deeper level,
okay.
For too many people.
Okay, so before I let her go on, because y'all see me, I'm losing my mind here. So there are too many Americans who are not feeling this progress because it was never progress to begin with. And she's talking like she's not even the vice president. Oh, I'm going to build on this progress. This is the core part of what I think as what the presidency should look like, what my presidency, excuse me, I couldn't get that word out, what that's supposed to look like. And it's, why are we expecting anything different? Let's go ahead and let's keep running this because I can go on just on that nonsense that she just spewed.
People, no matter how much they work, it feels so hard to just be able to get ahead. As president, I will be laser focused on creating opportunities for the middle class that advance their economic security, stability, and dignity. Together, we will build what I call an opportunity economy.
Oh, so we got to get away from Bidenomics, right?
An opportunity economy. We will build what I call an opportunity economy. An opportunity economy. An economy where everyone can compete and have a real chance to succeed. Everyone, regardless of who they are or where they start, has an opportunity to build wealth for themselves and their children. And where we remove the barriers to opportunity so anyone who wants to start a business or advance their career can access the tools and the resources that are necessary to do so.
Okay. So, as I said before, we got to get away from Bidenomics. We got to get away from that. So we're going to call it the opportunity economy. We had that under Trump. You did not have that under, you don't, excuse me, didn't. We're still in it. The Biden-Harris economy. We're still in that. Okay. They killed energy. They killed jobs. The jobs report is only focusing on part-time because all the full-time work is not necessarily available at the moment. People are getting part-time after part-time just so they can get the same hours, just so they can get the pay that would equal the one job for 40 hours a week. Now, some people would do 40 hours at a full-time job and still get a part-time job, right? That's like the illest work ethic that we support here on this channel. But that's not what's happening. People are getting 3-4 jobs because, well, full-time work is not necessarily available at the same rates that they're actually looking for. And this notion that we're going to make sure that the resources are available, why am I seeing videos of Black women who were veterans? We're talking real Black woman, a real Black woman who busted her behind, served this country, worked years because she had credit but couldn't get the business loan. And even when the banks told her no, she still busted her behind to build a business. And an illegal buys a business from her food truck that was, and oh, the government's going to give me this money. She goes to the banks and they confirm that the government is going to make sure that he can buy her food truck. What are you planning on doing about that? So I think this entire rally of hers was mostly focused on the economies because that's the biggest issue that people have right now. It's two of them. Number one is economics, and the second one is illegal immigration. And frankly, these two are not mutually exclusive when you're talking about the American dream, when you've got illegals coming in here, not only just getting taxpayer dollars to be in hotels, to get food stamps, but also getting money to buy businesses. This is ridiculous. How do they get money to buy a business when this woman had to work years to be able to do that? And you're going to sit here and say that you're going to make it so that this opportunity economy where everybody has the resources, but yeah, who's everybody, Kamala? Who's everybody? Are you talking about the American people? Are you talking about actual Black people? Or are you talking about these illegals that are coming in here? Who are we talking about when you say everyone? Because I got an issue with that. Even when they talk about giving money to everybody when it comes to the banks, y'all know what I think about just giving money away and it not being attached to actual profitability. Don't be borrowing money because you're trying to buy a car. I'm sorry. It's just stupid. It's just dumb. Debt is a product that they sell to cripple the American people. That's what happened with the debt. That's what's happening with the American people every single day. They use credit cards, but we do that because the economy is crappy that she and Biden deliberately put us in. I'm going to keep going. I'll keep going. Let me just keep going. Just keep it going.
I will focus on cutting needless bureaucracy and unnecessary regulatory red tape and encouraging innovative technologies
Meaning you're
while
going to give more
protecting
money to
consumers
corporations you say you
and
don't.
creating a stable business environment with
You haven't done that
consistent
already.
and transparent rules of the road. As president, I will bring together labor with small businesses and major companies to invest in America, to create good jobs, achieve broad-based growth.
I got to stop. I am going to play other clips of people's reactions to this because I love me some Judge Janine. I don't really watch Fox, but when she's on the 5, I got to watch because it's my Judge Janine. I absolutely love that woman. This woman wants to take money from people to fund what they want to fund. So when they want to fund green energy deals, guess what? It's going to come from the taxpayers. They're going to put all these ridiculous taxes and regulations. Understand, in 2023, the IRS, under her watch and Biden's watch, they tax tips. Okay. Their tax policy went after people who were making $1 a year, as well as the 28,000. She defines wealth at 400,000. Later on in this speech, she goes on to say that she wants people to be able to retire. But now in the 1960s, people retired with $500,000 to live out the rest of their years. That number has doubled, if not more, by the time we get to 2025. But that's where we are right now. But if wealth is defined at $400,000 and in the 1960s, people needed $500,000 to live out the last of their years, and that number has doubled, then how am I supposed to retire, woman? And then you want to fund green new energy. You want to give these corporations, which you say you hate, all this new money so that we can have all this innovation. Towards what, though? Because last I checked, eugenics is not something the Black Americans are looking for. It's not something that young Americans like myself are looking for. I don't care about eugenics. I don't care about bunny boys when you decide that you're going to create abominations and mix DNA with animals. Like, you're doing that. That was in this infrastructure bill that came out. Like, they care about infrastructure. That money went to Bunny Boy. That's what me and my twin sister call it, Bunny Boy. Like, this is what this is. It's going into ridiculous research. It's going into labs like what we saw with COVID and Dr. Fauci. It's like, this is, you just want to fund the things that you want to fund. And let's call a spade. If she has the opportunity to take taxpayer dollars to go and fight a war with Russia, which would not just be Russia, problems. She goes after tips. She goes after the lowest of earners in the United States, and she doesn't even care. First of all, she thinks young Americans are stupid, which is why we need to have people watching all over us, right? You already got young Americans, Gen Zers, millennials complaining about what's going on right now. Gen Zers are looking like, I waited to become an adult so that way life could be this hard. Life's hard enough without a shitty economy. Excuse my language. But when it's this bad, then what the heck are we doing here? And I'm supposed to think that retirement is a possibility when you want to talk to me about the jobs report. And what the hell, woman? These are part-time jobs. And I'm going to help small businesses. You mean the ones that you destroyed? Come on. She's an open socialist. Everything she wants to do, she wants to fund Medicare for all, another socialist agenda. She wants to push green energy, another socialist agenda. She doesn't want to do anything about the illegals, socialist, and globalist agenda. But you got people who still say they want to vote for this woman. Now, again, I think the only reason why she's talking about economics is because this is one of the biggest issues that people are talking about. And she needs a plan. Because all this whole, I'm just going to make sure that tips aren't taxed. This was Trump's idea. Like, let's stop pretending that this wasn't his idea. This is Trump's idea. You're just not convincing anybody that this was your original idea. It wasn't. You stole this idea from Trump. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play a reaction from Judge Janine Pirro on the 5 because, to be honest, it's perfect. It is hilarious, in my opinion, just from the little bits that I saw of it. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play that clip because it's hysterical.
Her Kamala the comrade, Vice President Harris, rolling out an economic plan that would make Stalin smile by pushing price controls and masking it as a corporate price gouging ban. But we've seen this movie before, and it always ends in disaster. Just ask the Soviet Union. Price controls led to the massive shortages of food and essentials. Here's the vice president.
Our country.
Okay. No, I'm gonna let it rock. But first of all, that Conrad Kamala bit, that was hysterical. I absolutely first of all, I just love me some Judge Janine. I think she's amazing. She's incredible. I wish she'd get off of Fox and just get back into the fray. She is who I want Trump to pick to be the attorney general. But side note, That Conrad Kamala, that was hysterical. And you're right. Yeah. And I said this in previous episodes. I'm getting straight Maduro, Castro, Stalin vibes. Like I'm getting that from her because she's a socialist, people. And we're talking bad. That did not end well for the Soviet Union, number one, because they ended up falling apart. And hello, that was negotiated between Reagan and Gorbachev. And then one day, guess what? No more Soviet Union. It's been how many years without them? Do we really want that to be the legacy that we have left if there's just nothing here? This was a dying idea. And it's not like they don't know this, but again, intentional. Let's go ahead and let's see what else I have to say about this.
Has come a long way since President Biden and I took office. Many Americans don't yet feel that progress in their daily lives. Costs are still too high. As president, I will take on the high costs that matter most to most Americans, like the cost of food. A loaf of bread costs 50% more today than it did before the pandemic. Ground beef is up almost 50%.
Up 50% since before the pandemic, who was in office. Remember that. Before the pandemic, who was in office? It was Orange Man. Okay, just remember. Okay, you can walk into the damn grocery store and you had an abundance of it. Now it's like ridiculous to find the one you want at the price you're looking for. And now you're lucky if you can settle for seconds at the cheaper price. You're lucky. But if the prices aren't there and you're down to a couple of brands, well, then you just have no choice but to pick out of the expensive stuff that's there on the shelf. I'm tired of walking into the damn grocery store and can't find the bread I'm looking for. Like, it's annoying.
Percent. I will work to pass the first ever federal ban on price gauging on food.
And if that didn't satisfy her communist cravings, Kamala is also proposing giving first-time home buyers up to $25,000, aka your hard-earned money, so that they can buy a house.
Obama did the same thing.
While we work on the housing
Black
shortage,
Americans even further.
My administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home.
But you've crossed the line when the liberal Washington Post calls you a commie. Check out this headline they wrote. It says, quote, when your opponent calls you communist, maybe don't propose price controls. And even CNN's calling it a gimmick.
First of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. You've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before. Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, etc. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. The specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices.
Reasonable people would ask, what does that mean? What does that really mean? And how is the government going to be involved in it? Is this just a ploy? Because it sounds kind of like it.
That was hilarious. When your opponent calls you a commie, maybe don't talk about price controls. Like, yeah, maybe don't just walk right into that. It's like, oh, she swallowed it. Oh, that's what she said. Like, you walked right into that. It's like, that's exactly what that was. Like, don't walk into the insult. Like, just don't do that. And she did exactly that. I don't have to say she's a communist because CNN is already saying it. I don't have to call her a communist because the New York Times, the New York Post, Washington Post, they're all saying the same damn thing that we're saying. This is socialist. This is communist. It doesn't work. It's been tried in multiple countries and it never works out for the countries who actually try it. And this is when people talk about why capitalism is a bad thing. Honorable capitalism is actually pretty great. It lifts people out of poverty. And during the times of the 13 colonies, you actually saw that happen. Obviously, we know there were problems. Black Americans and women did not have the same opportunities that we obviously have today, but they had something that we just don't have. Giving $25,000 to the first home buyers. Okay. That sounds like a good thing until the people who get this money try to buy the house. And guess what happens? They default. They can't afford to pay these houses and they end up leaving anyway. And then they have restrictions on these opportunities moving forward. 2 years, 3 years before you can even buy another house. And then you don't even have the money because most of it went into the house that you couldn't even afford to begin with. That happened when Obama decided to give all this money to Black Americans. And it's always because it's racist to not give them money. Oh, no, it's okay to put them further and further into debt. And understand, there was a bailout because of these things. Obama did the same thing. There were bailouts because of the over the banks because they were just giving free money away. $25,000 to home buyers, giving out thousands and thousands of dollars to illegals so that way they can buy business and build business. I mean, they're just going to, and it's only going to increase this deficit. It's only going to, everything that this woman has mentioned in her speech was all about what tax dollars could do if we just constantly keep taking it from you, and what could happen if we just keep on printing and printing and printing. And I'm sick and tired of people telling me that this debt doesn't matter. It does. It's 35 trillion. The buying power of our dollar is getting depleted to the point where you've got crypto lovers. Like, I'm ready to use other monies. People who like gold are thinking about using other monies. Kamala is against cryptocurrency. She's against financial freedom because she thinks wealth is 400,000, which in order to retire, you need more than double that in order to live out the last of your years. And it's at the point now where even $1 million is questionable. I mean, my goodness. Everything this woman is saying is going to hurt the buying power of your dollar. So even if you do retire, the number is not going to be the same, even if the value is $1 million in the dollar sign. But what's the actual buying power? If she's going to define what this is actually going to be, which she says it's 400,000. She said this when it was Biden versus Trump, okay? When she was on the debate stage between her and Mike Pence, she said wealth is $400,000. That's what she thinks wealth is. And you actually need $100,000 more in order to retire in the 1960s. And that number is all but double. I keep saying this over and over again because I want you guys to understand the numbers. The math matters. The numbers matter. This woman is a commie, and it's not just me saying it. The left are saying it too. We're talking about like the reasonable left, the moderate, the common sense thinking. Maybe don't repeat the evil stuff that Stalin believed in, that Castro believed in. When you start talking about giving away all this money, you're talking about hurting the economy, hurting productivity, hurting the production costs, therefore making life that much harder for the American people. And we've already started to experience that under the Biden days. I said this was going to happen. They didn't want to believe me. They voted. And guess what? Y'all know what I think about 2020. Rigged up the wazoo. Y'all know what I think about that. But ultimately, he pretended to be the moderate and all hell broke loose and the economy is crappy and people want to complain about gas prices and grocery prices. We're thrilled when we see it at $3.19. Yo, we're excited about $3.19 and there's a real problem here. I remember when it was $1.25. You're playing games. The woman is a communist. Everyone is in agreement that that is what's happening. Everything that she says she wants to do is only going to make the economy worse. It's not that we don't have a record to check because, well, she is still the vice president and has been for 3 years. If the economy getting worse since the pandemic was such a concern for you, why didn't you do something sooner? She was struggling to have actual policy arguments that every single time she sat in front of the press, if it's the mainstream media, they never asked her a tough question. She didn't have any policies. And then eventually people had to start asking, what do you plan on doing about the economy? How do you plan on doing this build back better without actually hurting the American people? And these are the accusations that we're making against you, that your build back better only made things worse. The infrastructure bill didn't help. The CHIPS bill didn't help. And although there are some Americans who are still not feeling the progress, majority of Americans are not feeling the progress. Not some, like this is just a small few who are not trying at all, which we talked about in yesterday's episode of people talking about young Americans having a hard time and a difficulty finding work out here. Like, that's not real. And it is. The struggle is real. It's difficult for young Americans to actually compete. Most of the wealth is sitting with the older generations. It's mostly sitting with the boomers, and even the boomers are struggling. So what are we talking about here? Nothing that this woman has done in office as vice president has actually been beneficial. She refuses to talk about illegal immigrants. I mean, the entire rally, she didn't say a damn thing about illegals. They are getting money to buy businesses with taxpayer dollars. She wants to give other American citizens thousands of dollars to buy homes that they will never be able to afford regularly, which is only going to force them further into debt, only crippling the dollar buying power even more, hurting the American people as a collective even more, hurting the nation even more. We're already at $35 trillion, and this woman is talking about more printing, putting the American people further and further into debt. I mean, my goodness, I don't even know how anybody can, in good conscience, vote for a woman whose ideas are the same as Stalin. It's like, would you vote for Stalin? The answer is no. Then why vote for Kamala Harris? I'll give you Joe Biden because you thought he was a moderate. I will give you that because of the propaganda. But there is no reason why, if everyone is saying that this woman is a communist, and coming from her own words, free this, free that, print more, this is what her ideas actually mean. Let's stop pretending with these pretty words of cleaner energy. She's talking about destroying lives. She's talking about making gas prices even higher. She's talking about making life harder. This is ridiculous. Let's get some sense here, people. She's a commie. Tim Walz is a commie who wants to mutilate children and put tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay? She's been vice president for 3.5 years, and she's done absolutely nothing. Biden and Harris have done absolutely nothing but I won't say they did nothing. They made things worse. We are inching closer and closer towards nuclear war. The buying power of the dollar is getting even worse. They have no interest on allowing the American people use any other currency but the US dollar that she knows very well she's trying to destroy. We talk about the history of the economy here a lot on this channel. We talk about the history of our money a lot on this channel. And she is exactly what the Federal Reserve wants. She's exactly what the central bankers want, because all they want us to do is to keep borrowing money, completely ignorant of the fact that this is a part of the goal in crippling the American people, to be non-productive, unintelligent, and in debt, completely overwhelmed with illegals who eventually replace potential voting blocs who might end up voting Republican. That's what's happening. That's what we're dealing with today. And you all have a choice. So you all let me know in the comment sections. You go ahead and take the time to like this channel, subscribe to the channel first. Then you go ahead and like this video. You can share it as well because we want to keep growing the channel. I'm enjoying this. I'm having a good time sharing this information. If you do know, and you just like hearing people agree and engage in these conversations, you go ahead and you get in the comment section because I love to hear it. Subscribe to the channel again. You can follow me on Instagram and our show Financial. You can follow me on Twitter at @arch_finance. So thank you very much for all listening. You have a good one. God bless and Kepla.